So this horse story takes us to the fall of 2019, deep in the Appalachian Mountains, when two lifelong friends set on what was supposed to be a simple weekend hunt. They knew the trails, they knew the woods, but what happened over the next 48 hours has been talked about in ranger reports and tied to the disturbing legend of giant spiders in Appalachia. They left their truck at a game pull-off. The leaves had already turned, and the hills were quiet except for the crunch of boots. By late afternoon, they reached an old campsite they'd used before. It wasn't far from a collapsed mine entrance. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary until one of them noticed strands of silk running across the brush. At first, he thought it was just thick cobwebs. But these were different, heavy, almost like fishing line. Some locals called them the webs of Appalachian cave spiders, part of a legend passed down for years. They joked about it and brushed it off. But that night, things changed. Just after midnight, one of the hunters radioed his brother. The message was garbled and panicked. He said something about webs everywhere and it's moving in the trees. The call dropped, and when rangers arrived the next morning, they found the campsite abandoned. The tent was collapsed. Sleeping bags dragged a few feet, and the fire still smoldered. What stood out the most were the strands of webbing, thick lines strung between branches, draped over tents like nets. For many, this became one of the most unsettling Appalachian horror stories they'd ever heard. Search teams combed the area for days. They found gear scattered along the ridgeline, even a rifle propped up against a tree. But the hunters were gone. What rattled investigators the most was a single boot found hanging 10 feet off the ground, tangled in thick strands of webbing that no one could explain. Their disappearance was officially logged as unresolved. Locals who know the area have their own theory. They say these old mines hold more than just coal. They talk about giant spiders of Appalachia, creatures that grow to impossible sizes and only come out of the woods when they fall silent. To them, this wasn't just another scary story. It was a warning. To this day, no trace of the men has ever been recovered. Rangers chalked up the rough terrain, wild animals, or simply getting lost. But those who live near the mountains, they'll tell you a little bit differently. They'll tell that if you see heavy webs stretched across the trees where they don't belong, you don't keep walking. You turn back immediately. Because in Appalachia, the legend of giant spiders aren't just tales. They're true horror stories, waiting to be told.